There exists a planet like this, a world that nurtures life. One day here is equal to 22 hours on Earth. It has a moon-like satellite, just much closer than Earth's moon. Much. This entire planet is almost completely draped in endless ocean. Land makes up only about 15%, and it's all clustered into one giant continent. This planet is loaded with lethal threats. And the land? Far more dangerous than the sea. Because nearly everything that walks on land, runs on land, or flies above land is basically running on kill mode. Each one of them is ready to turn you into dinner. Think I'm describing a sci-fi novel? No, this is our Earth. More precisely, Earth 250 million years ago. The late Permian period, long before dinosaurs even booked their appearance. At the water's edge lurked creatures so fearsome they ruled the skies, yes, the skies. And which apex predator stood at the very top of this deadly food web? Today's episode takes us back through time, to an Earth transformed into a genuine planet of death. Calling it harsh would be an understatement. Look at this scene. Looks like a world completely swallowed by ocean. But actually, this is just the Pacific Ocean as we know it today. In the ancient past, the Superpan Ocean was nearly twice its size. And in the middle of this vast water world, there existed a single supercontinent, Pangaea. Travel back to that frightening age, and you'd probably choose to stay in the ocean rather than step on land. Ironically, your survival odds were higher underwater. The surface of the supercontinent looked absolutely lifeless. Deserts, steep mountains, scorching heat, this was its interior. Almost nothing could survive there. Most forests and grasslands had vanished, replaced by brutal sunlight and endless dead red wasteland. Heat scorched the land, burning it into something life refused to touch. The entire continent was wrapped in a truly lethal environment. Imagine this, the average temperature was hotter than the hottest month in the modern Sahara Desert. And as if the heat wasn't enough, oxygen levels in the air were plummeting. The lush Carboniferous world had already passed by 50 million years. Oxygen once peaked at 30%. Now, barely 15%. Even lower than today's 21%. Creatures unable to cope basically had zero chance of survival. Those that did survive evolved into genuine monsters. You might say, come on, scarier than sharks with ancient resumes or tentacled eldritch beasts. Alright then. Let's dive into the oceans of that era and take a look at the nightmares waiting quietly beneath the waves. Before the end Permian catastrophe, this enormous planet was ruled by apex predators of the sea, creatures so terrifying that a single glance could freeze you. Take the helicoprion, its jaws packed with spirals of teeth, coiled into a deadly saw blade. A living circular saw on fins. It could reach 8 meters long. To its prey, it was basically a swimming nightmare. Hard to believe, but this thing really existed. By the late Permian, though, the monster had already gone extinct, leaving behind descendants far less terrifying. One of them, hybodont sharks, reaching up to 2 meters in length, about the size of modern bull sharks. Still unsettling, sure, but compared to their ancestors, not even close. Especially since the teeth of the helicoprionidae descendants had fully evolved to specialize in hunting soft-bodied prey like squid. Gone were the deadly, spiral saw blades of their ancient ancestor. Compared with the gigantic helicoprion, this species was basically the ocean's equivalent of a harmless puppy. The ocean still hosted shark-like fish at the time, but they were even smaller than the helicoprionidae. Most of them didn't grow beyond 1 meter. But honestly, the other marine creatures of that era weren't likely to threaten you anyway. Take, for example, the trilobites, once rulers of Paleozoic seas. By this point, they were in the twilight of their existence. These ancient arthropods first appeared 550 million years ago, and thrived for hundreds of millions of years. But now, most trilobite species were already gone. The survivors were tiny and extremely rare, barely 2 centimeters long. Quite the downgrade from their ancestors, which could reach 90 centimeters. Nautiloids met a similar fate. During the late Permian,
They were the last struggling members of the once dominant cephalopod dynasty. Most shells measured just 10 to 15 centimeters, but in earlier eras, some nautiloids had shells stretching up to 2 meters, making them apex predators of their time. Sea scorpions still existed, but they, too, were on the brink of extinction. Take the Eurypterids, for example, once a mighty and terrifying lineage, now reduced to their final few species. And though fading away, they were still impressively large. Some reached nearly 1 meter long. Picture it, a scorpion roughly the size of your dog. Enough to make your spine file a formal complaint. By now you might be wondering, why did the ancient oceans look so bizarre? Where did all those creatures go? The main culprit was the mid-Permian Capetanian extinction, a catastrophe that, though merely a warm-up act for the end-Permian mass extinction, still dealt a devastating blow to marine ecosystems. Roughly 1/3 of ocean species vanished. Terrestrial ecosystems were also affected, but less severely and in different ways. To survive on land back then, a creature had to be tough from day one and capable of extreme adaptation. And after the disaster, the competition for survival became even more brutal. Now we arrive at the most astonishing part. Even at the boundary of land and water, life on ancient Earth had grown terrifyingly bizarre. Consider modern frogs. You probably think of them as harmless. Sure, some can be poisonous. But will they try to eat you? Or even consider the possibility? Obviously not. Yet frogs are fierce predators. Many species eat insects, and anything else smaller than themselves. Some can even swallow an entire mouse. Now meet their ancient cousins, creatures that lived during Earth's age of nightmares. Take this fellow, for instance. Does it look even remotely like a frog? This is Prionosuchus. It could grow up to 3 meters long, armed with razor-sharp teeth and an instinct for predation. It ruled its territory with ease. Prionosuchus lived mostly near water, behaving very much like a modern crocodile. It would lurk silently at the water's edge, using its camouflaged skin to disappear, practically invisible. Its hunting strategy relied on stealth and precision. Most prey never realized the danger until they were already doomed. Small reptiles coming for a drink, or unsuspecting amphibians, all were fair game. Once prey wandered close, Prionosuchus would strike with explosive force. Its sharp teeth, driven by tremendous jaw power, pierced flesh instantly. Escape was impossible. Its strategy, clamp down and never let go. Once bitten, prey had no hope. It held on until the struggling stopped entirely. These inhabitants of the Wuchiapingian were, quite literally, the chaotic overlords of coastlines and river systems. They truly ruled the shores and freshwater channels, absolute tyrants of lakes and wetlands. Raw physical power, combined with patience and an unsettling calm, gave them a tactical edge matched only by their bulk. With such traits, Prionosuchus could easily dispatch anything foolish enough to step too close to the water. For many prey animals, there were only two options: risk becoming someone's lunch at the shoreline, or die of thirst. So tell me, do you think Prionosuchus was the scariest amphibian of its time? Actually, no. There was an even more terrifying monster, Rhinoceros. This ancient predator could reach 4 meters in length. Still an amphibian, but far more suited to life on land than Prionosuchus, and frankly, even more visually upsetting. As a cold-blooded hunter, Rhinoceros moved confidently between land and water, comfortably mastering both realms. Just like Prionosuchus, it possessed astonishing patience. It always struck at the perfect moment. Its body was sturdy, with short but powerful limbs and a long, muscular tail. Combined with a wide, crushing jaw, it dominated both land and water as if born to each. These features firmly placed it at the top of its ecological throne. If prey fled toward land, Rhinoceros would chase without hesitation. Its short, powerful limbs carried sharp claws. Even on uneven ground, they ensured prey could not escape. Once something was caught in its iron jaws, the story essentially ended there. According to researchers, its preferred hunting method was dragging prey underwater to drown. Once it seized prey at the water's edge, it pulled them under in seconds. This strategy mirrors modern crocodiles to an uncanny degree. However, let's be clear, Rhinoceros was not a reptile. It was an amphibian, basically an amphibian on hard mode. By the way, today the largest amphibian on Earth is China's giant salamander, often called the baby fish. They can grow 80 to 120 centimeters long. They inhabit the Yellow River Basin, the Yangtze Basin, and the Pearl River systems. These salamanders are ancient amphibians. Their lineage traces back 360 million years to Devonian aquatic fish. Yet compared to Rhinoceros, they look like tiny noodles.
Even though these two giants, Prionosuchus and Rhinosuchus, were terrifying, the land during this dark era held predators even more fearsome. They were cold, relentless, and engineered for killing, the uncontested apex predators of their world. Next, we introduce the Gorgonopsids. Even their name sounds like a warning sign. Gorgon comes from ancient Greek, meaning terrible or frightening. Their appearance looked like a mashup of lizard and mammal. Their long, curved saber teeth remained visible even with their mouths closed. Powerful limbs and a lean, muscular build made everything about them radiate power, speed, and brutality. In that dark age, Gorgonopsids were the undisputed apex predators. Their massive fangs could tear apart large vertebrates with ease. Their powerful jaws and wide mouths allowed them to lock onto prey, leaving virtually no chance of escape. They lived long before the first true dinosaurs appeared, let alone mammals. They were, without question, the rulers of their time. Now, let's take a closer look at the most fearsome predator among them. Based on body size, biological traits, and hunting competence, we rank these creatures by lethality, from lowest to highest, a list you definitely don't want to be on. The Cynodont Cricodon is small, yet surprisingly dangerous. It barely reaches 2 meters long, and unlike its larger relatives, it seems immune to intimidation. But don't let that compact frame fool you. In a world crawling with predators, even the small guys have to major in the art of killing. And Cricodon is a graduate-level hunter, fast, flexible, and alarmingly lethal. For that reason, it earns the number 4 spot on our list. They often lurk in the shadows of rocks or dense vegetation, waiting patiently for the perfect ambush moment. Unlike larger predators that win by brute force, Cricodon relies on speed and surgical precision. Its long, curved saber teeth act like knives, engineered for piercing flesh. Short, powerful limbs allow it to launch sudden, explosive attacks. Its strategy is simple, swift, and silent. By the time prey senses danger, it's usually already doomed. Its primary targets are small reptiles and early ancestors of mammals. These creatures stand almost no chance. They end up as unwilling props in Cricodon's ongoing display of hunting expertise. Ranked third is Gorgonops galvophilus, a predator from what is now Russia. This Gorgonopsid averaged around 2 meters long, larger and deadlier than the previous entry. Despite its size, it retained impressive speed and agility. Its most unusual feature was its bizarre method of hearing. At the back of its jaw, there's a specialized auditory organ, a big membrane functioning like an eardrum. Sound waves travel through the jawbone to the inner ear. Strangely, this creature could only hear when its mouth was open, because only then could the quadrate bone touch the stapes. When its mouth shut, silence, total silence. Almost completely deaf. Its hearing range was probably narrow, likely useful in social situations like finding mates or defending territories. Although terrestrial, it spent much of its life near or in water, possibly because its temperature regulation was rather poor. Water made a convenient cooling system. Its diet was diverse, small reptiles, amphibians, even insects. Yet even this powerful predator had to contend with something bigger and meaner. Next, we meet the legendary Lycosuchus, once dominant across what is now South Africa and Tanzania, a terrifying predator. It ranks number 2 on our apex list, and deservedly so. This creature is absolutely worth a close inspection. Lycosuchus reached up to 3 meters long, weighing over 500 kilograms. With a body that massive, stealth was optional. This is typical of all therocephalians, but especially obvious in this one. People have tried many ways to reconstruct its appearance, and every single attempt ends in the same reaction: deep, profound discomfort. Even in illustrations, this creature radiates nightmare energy, a bizarre mix of reptile, saber-toothed cat, and perhaps a horror movie pit bull mutation. Unsettling, to say the least. This predator rarely needed extended battles. One bite from its deadly teeth, and the prey would bleed out in moments. It fed mainly on large animals, such as most chops and other giants of its era. Overall, its ferocity and lethality speak for themselves. Yet there was still one creature even more formidable, the undisputed champion of the era's predator list, the apex killer of that shadowed age. At the very top sits Inostrancevia. This creature represented the evolutionary peak of the therapsids. It was the literal nightmare fuel of every herbivore of its age.
Even getting close to it could easily qualify as a life-ending mistake. Loping beasts like this could reach 3.5 meters long and weigh over 500 kilograms, one of the largest, most dangerous, most unapologetically violent predators of the time. From its anatomy alone, we know it specialized in hunting herbivores, creatures like Ulimosaurus and other wanderers of the Permian landscape. Yes, anything big and chewy. Armed with extremely sharp canines, it could inflict deep wounds, causing prey to bleed out with terrifying speed. Like other therapsids, it relied heavily on those oversized saber-like teeth. But what set it apart was its colossal body. And beyond the iconic fangs, it also carried up to 5 pairs of smaller canine-shaped teeth. The lower jaw, intriguingly, had none, meaning most of its bite force was concentrated at the front of the upper jaw, right where those lethal fangs and incisors were. Another notable feature, its upper jaw wasn't firmly fused to its skull. This anatomical flex zone boosted bite efficiency. And judging from the large number of fawn fossils found alone, these predators shed their upper teeth quite often. New ones simply grew back after the old ones fell out, like a conveyor belt of fresh weaponry. So even losing a key fawn barely slowed this monster down. Replacement teeth? No problem. These terrifying beasts ruled that brutal, shadow-filled age. And trust me, the predators weren't the only ones capable of giving you nightmares. Even their prey could make your spine do a polite shiver. Even today, seemingly gentle animals like cows can severely injure humans, or worse. While global statistics are scarce, The Guardian once cited a UK health and safety report noting that from 2000 to 2020, in the UK alone, 98 deaths were caused by cattle. Yes, cows. The modern armored tanks of farmland. So, what kind of herbivores roamed that terrifying Permian world? Let's have a look. First up, the Diectodon. A small herbivore, small for the Permian, at least, but tough, adaptable, and surprisingly tenacious. Calling it small might mislead you, though. It could reach 2 meters long or more, definitely not the laped version. With a barrel-shaped body, sturdy limbs, and a face sporting 2 impressive tusks, it had quite the presence. Diectodon were natural digging machines. Their upper jaw acted like a shovel, perfect for unearthing roots and tubers from hard, dry ground. They weren't picky eaters either. Anything edible was fair game, a key advantage when food was scarce. Beyond adaptability, they reproduced rapidly. Populations boomed, making them one of the most widespread animals of the time. They occupied nearly every piece of habitable land. Still, despite their dominance, they were not the largest herbivores of the age. So who held the size record? Enter the pariasaur. A herbivore built like nature's own tank, designed for survival in a world full of hungry mouths. It could reach 3 meters long and weigh up to 500 kilograms. It looked like a mashup of a modern turtle and a pufferfish, minus the shell. Instead, its skin was studded with bony armor plates. It had powerful limbs and strong muscles, not fast, not graceful, but incredibly well protected. Speed wasn't needed. When you're a walking fortress, your survival strategy is tank it. Nature gifted it a full set of shield-like osteoderms covering its back and sides. For top predators of that era, Dungeolon was basically a walking hard mode. Its armor was tough enough to shrug off most attacks. Up to this point, we've talked about some aquatic, terrestrial, and reptilian creatures of the Dark Age. But were there any flying creatures around? The answer is, only insects. Pterosaurs were still far in the future, and birds weren't even a concept yet. During the late Permian, insects were no longer the giants they had been in the Carboniferous. Back then, higher atmospheric oxygen allowed them to scale up like crazy. Even so, the late Permian still had insects with looks that could give modern humans instant goosebumps. Take the ancient Odonata relatives. Although the gigantic Carboniferous dragonflies were long gone, their lineage didn't completely disappear. Most of the giant forms vanished early in the Permian, but some close relatives survived into the late Permian. These insects still sported impressively wide wings, a wingspan of 30 to 40 centimeters. They lived near water and preyed on other insects.
Coexisting with them were Protereismidae, with slender wings and eye-catching bodies, looking somewhat like oversized modern dragonflies. Their wingspans ranged from 20 to 30 centimeters, still impressive by today's standards. Another notable insect was the primitive ancestral beetle, an ancient cousin of modern beetles. These Permian insects were quite large for beetles, reaching up to 7 centimeters long. They likely lived in forests or near water sources, feeding on decaying plant matter. Though these creatures seemed formidable, in the long run, they were just as vulnerable as everything else. The end of the late Permian was every bit as terrifying as its beginning. Most famously, it concluded with tragedy. The Permian Triassic mass extinction was the most catastrophic extinction in Earth's entire history. 95% of all species vanished, including 75% of land animals and 96% of marine life. It was also the only event in Earth's history where even insects weren't spared. For nearly 10 million years, Pangaea became a wasteland. Sea floors were carpeted with the remains of fragile marine life. Most species born from the Cambrian explosion vanished forever. Trilobites, tabulate corals, rugose corals, and many long-lasting lineages all disappeared without a trace. Brachiopods, bivalves, cephalopods, and conodont animals, over 90% of their species were wiped out. On land, nearly all tetrapods suffered the same catastrophic fate. It was extinction on a scale almost impossible to imagine. But life didn't end there. The survivors took up the baton of a new era, gradually reshaping Earth's environment. Millions of years after the extinction, Earth's ecosystems finally awakened again. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoy content like this, feel free to give it the classic triple support combo. See you in the next episode.